Hi. Well, I'm glad we're able to meet today. You mentioned in your note that you wanted to discuss Ryan.
Yes, Ryan is really struggling. I think he needs to be evaluated.
Tell me about his difficulties.
He can't read, and I've tried everything, and he's just not keeping up with the rest of the class. I think he's overwhelmed. I mean, he really can't do the work, and he never finishes assignments or homework. And at first I was thinking he didn't want to do it, but now I really think that he can't do it.
Sounds like you're really concerned about Ryan. Maybe we can work together to better understand his current reading skills and then come up with a plan to improve his reading. What do you think about that?
I think that would be very helpful.
Well, I'm pretty familiar with your curriculum, but it would be helpful for me to know how you structure your reading lessons and what materials you use.
Well, every morning we have independent reading and a worksheet. And in the afternoon we do reading groups for about an hour. I try to have about 4 to 5 students per group and to make it a mix of ability levels. Usually I meet with each group for about 15 minutes. This helps me to hear them read, and I can ask them questions to assess their comprehension. I try to take informal notes and to have some soft data on how the students are doing.
Tell me about your reading lessons.
Well, we have workbooks for vocabulary and writing that we go over in the morning.
Do you go over the workbooks as a class, or do the students work independently?
I teach the lessons that go along with it, so we do some of it as a class, and then the students do a page or two on their own while I walk around the room and give them feedback on their work.
Okay, so it sounds like an independent reading time in the morning, a lesson and work activities, and then reading groups in the afternoon.
Right.
Tell me about how Ryan does in these activities.
Well, he really doesn't do much. He's my lowest reader. He does okay with the workbook items, I guess, but he reads very slowly during group and usually can't answer any of the comprehension questions.
You mentioned that you try to help him. Tell me about some of the things that you've tried.
Well, I gave him a reading buddy, which helped a little at first, but then I was concerned because she's a really good reader, and I thought I wasn't challenging her enough. So I also did picture walks during his reading group and had the students predict what we were going to read, which usually helps with comprehension.
So what are some of the errors he makes when he's reading?
He's actually okay with decoding, but it takes him a really long time. I realized recently that when I wait a long time for him to respond, he usually gets it. I guess he's trying to decode it in his head. He also has difficulty with sight words.
So what are some of the strategies you use to help students with reading, decoding, and sight words?
We really don't do too many phonics activities in the curriculum anymore, but in the past I did some extra activities with breaking apart words into sounds using flashcards and other games. For sight words, I usually use flashcards and have the students write down the words they read incorrectly and ask them to practice them at home for homework.
So how have these strategies worked with your students?
Pretty well. I mean, sometimes it just depends on the student and what they need.
And have you tried these strategies with Ryan?
Well, I have given him sight words to take home, which all my students are supposed to do. I don't know if he practices them, but he's supposed to. I also help him in the reading group when he's struggling to decode a word and try to give him strategies for decoding.
Well, it's great that you've tried these strategies with Ryan. What do you think has worked well?
I think the flashcards for sight words work well, but I also try to monitor those more closely. I also think I could spend more time with him on decoding strategies. Maybe I could do more phonics games with him. Also, the school just purchased phonics computer software for all their classrooms. I haven't looked into it yet, but I've heard it is research-based, so it might work well.
Well, it sounds like you have many strategies or interventions that might work for Ryan. Which one or combination do you think would be reasonable to implement in your classroom?
I think I could easily use the phonics computer program during our monitor, during our morning independent reading. I could also start writing down all the sight words he frequently reads incorrectly and have him practice with me and at home. could probably do this in the morning after he finishes the computer program, or I could do this with all my students during reading groups.
Well, I think this is a great start and seems like something that you think would be manageable within your schedule.
Yeah, me too.
I also think it's really important for us to determine whether these interventions are working and whether Ryan's reading is improving as a result of your efforts. When you're working with Ryan, think about whether the computer program and sight word training are helping him to read words more accurately and quickly. Also, improving Ryan's reading fluency will likely lead to improving his reading comprehension too. If you'd like, I could come in this week to observe Ryan and see if I can help you come up with other strategies.
Okay, that sounds great. When would you like to observe?
Well, I can come in during a reading lesson and during independent reading. Do you think this is something that would be helpful?
Yeah, I think any feedback you could give me would be very helpful.
Well, let's meet again in 3 weeks to see how it's going, and in the meantime I'll touch base with Ryan's parents and let them know some of the work you're doing to help him. And I can see if they have concerns and whether they would be able to practice reading with him at home or be involved in the plan some way. How does that sound?
It would be really great if you could call his parents, because they really need to be on board. Please let them know that I will be sending flashcards home, and they should practice those with him, because he also hasn't been handing in his homework.
All right. I will let you know when I get in touch with them.
Thanks for your help.